Welcome back to our coverage from Brands Hatch of the Caterham meeting here, and we're about to go 310R racing. The man on pole position is unbeaten so far this year, would you believe? Let's go and grab a quick word if we can with Lewis Thompson. Lewis, we had a quick chat earlier on, and I know you missed the first round due to studies, but since then unbeaten. How much pressure does that put on you?
Yeah, a lot more pressure than it should. You know, going unbeaten so far, 5 races on the run in the National Championship, but yeah, it just makes it so much harder, but got a lot of confidence and a lot of momentum with me, so it's just good to keep it going.
I know you were saying you missed the first rounds because of, you know, you were working on your studies, you had your exams, and that's a good thing to do. You're waiting for the placement, the results this week, I think they come out. What day is it, Thursday?
Tuesday, so yeah, hoping to get the grades and get to my uni, so.
Imperial College you were telling me as well?
Yeah, Imperial College London, so fingers crossed.
It'd be great that you get that. And how much pressure is there win after win? I mean, at some point I guess things might go against you, but it's a very impressive run that you've done in a very competitive championship.
Yeah, it is. Every race just seems to be getting harder and harder, and you know, it's just good to keep it going, especially around here. And you know, today's a different race to yesterday, so I'm sure it's going to be a lot harder. But yeah, but with the setup that the boys provide, it makes it a little bit easier.
That's very magnanimous of you. Going forward, obviously studies are important to you. Is the career going to be behind the scenes, or would you like to carry on driving and use the engineering expertise that you'll get towards your driving career as well?
Yeah, I'd definitely love to keep racing Caterhams into the near future, and obviously with my degree I'll obviously have a good understanding of the car, so I'd like to run myself at some point, but I don't know when it will be, and then hopefully get a career in motorsport after the degree.
Good luck for the race, Lewis. We'll let you get on with the concentration for the build-up. Have a good one. Thanks for chatting to us. Lewis Thompson, who's on pole position there. I'm going to whiz round, if we can, have a word with Pete Walters. Sorry, guys, for going in the mix. Lewis, I think, on Drop Scores Championship leader, but over and above that, we've got Pete Walters, double winner, second position in yesterday's race. Pete, how's your weekend going?
Good. Hopefully make that triple winner. Yeah. That's the plan. Yeah, looking forward to it. Glad we've got some, well, hopefully some consistent weather. First one of the session this weekend. It's all been a bit unpredictable, so nice dry race would be good, so we can really get at it.
It's looking all right at the moment. I know when we were setting the camera up earlier, every time we got the camera out, it was raining. We put the camera away and it dried up, and people weren't sure what to do with tyres and setups, but things looking a little bit more settled now. Tell us about the drivers around you. Good camaraderie in this championship, and a lot of respect shown, I think, in all the racing we've seen so far.
Definitely, yeah. I mean, full commitment and trust with the guys that are around me. It's so nice to be able to trust and actually be literally wheel to wheel, knowing that they're going to give space, they're going to be kind, you're going to be honest with each other, but at the same time, you know, there's no inch left there. They're going to race you hard.
Oh, that's good. Wish you well for the race, Pete. Thanks for chatting to us. Thanks, mate. Pete Walters there. If we can, I'm going to grab a quick word. This guy, I don't know if he'll remember me. This is James Wingfield. His dad used to work with us on the South London Cable programme. Wingers, how are you, old fella?
Yeah, very good, thank you. Very good. Good to see you again.
It's nice to see you, yeah. And good to see you, Caterham. How's it going?
Oh, it's very good. Great fun. I love racing in this. Done it for a couple of years now, and this year in particular, I've started to get a few podiums. You can see on the bonnet a few little laurels to represent them, and yeah, hopefully a couple more this weekend.
Was it Formula 6 karting? I think we caught up with your dad was commentating on it, wasn't he?
It was, originally.
Yeah. I mean, similar territory. I'm not commentating on my son, but he's just starting to get a little bit. But how old were you when you did F6?
Well, when was that? That was in the 90s. So I wouldn't want to say because it'll give away my age now. But yeah, no, that was great fun, Formula 6, and yeah, I managed to keep racing a little bit on and off, but even to this day, so a great starter series.
A lot of people sometimes pick an easy championship, but there are easy championships that you can pick to race in. A Caterham championship is never ever easy, is it?
No, I've done the opposite. This is about as hard as it gets. The quality in this field is so high. I think we've got about 15 cars here today, and I'm guessing about 12 race winners. So any result in this series is really worth celebrating, to be honest. Yeah. But it makes you a better driver.
How much of the Caterham ladder have you done?
I joined as a 270. Obviously, I had a bit of experience in karting and other stuff as a youngster.
Yeah.
So I didn't join as the academy. That wouldn't be right. So I joined at 270, and now I'm 270.
James, the whistle's back. Got to get off the holding area now. Good luck for the race. Good to see you again. Good to see you on the podium. We're holding James up there. He's itching to get out. We're itching to get up to the commentary box and join Scott once again. Scott, over to you.
Yes, drivers heading out onto track now for our next Caterham action, that being the second to last Caterham match, in fact, because we've still got one more race to go for them with the Caterham 7 Championship UK. But this is the step just below that, the ultimate evolution of the original Academy car, the Caterham 7 310R Championship. This is where the penultimate step on the ladder before you get to the top level, which we'll see in a little bit later on this afternoon. So we had race 1 yesterday, which was a fairly dominant win for Lewis Thompson, who had, in the last few rounds, pretty much won all the races since he'd come in. He missed the first 3 races at Donington Park, but he came in at Knockhill, then at Silverstone, and has won all 5 races that have been run since Donington Park, including yesterday's first race. So he's aiming for 6 on the bounce if he can manage it. But of course, he's got the likes of Pete Walters, James Wingfield, and others who will be snapping at his heels all the way through from the back. Here's the grid then. So Thompson and Walters on the front row of the grid. It's Wingfield and Evans along on the second row behind them. Mike Evans back in the Caterham after a couple of years away. Andrew Murgatroyd and Harry Cook come next on the third row, followed by Lars Hoppen. A better starting spot for him this time, up in 7th, alongside David Yates, who had to recover after a first lap spin. As did also issues for Andy Lees. He started on pole yesterday and threw away the lead in the early stages, climbed back up to 9th as a result. Harry Landy starts in the edge of the top 10 ahead of Jeff Price and Douglas Christie on the 6th row of the grid. Then in row 7, we've got Gary Curtis and Stephen Metcalfe. And then at the back of the grid, in 15th place, we should have on his own on the 8th row, but last but by no means least, Chris Welch to round out the grid. So 15 cars, all present and correct from yesterday. And coming into the weekend, as mentioned, it's pretty much running fairly well at the moment for Lewis Thompson, having scored 4 wins on the bounce. He's made incredible progress up the table. He came into the weekend on overall score 7th in points, where it was Pete Walters who had had a very consistent run and hadn't finished a race incredibly lower than 2nd all season. So, and he managed to keep that record up yesterday. But up until the time when Lewis Thompson came in, he took 2 wins at Donington Park as well as a 2nd place. The only other driver to win a race this year has been Lars Hoffman, who last couple of weeks, looking at his results, just hasn't really gone his way. He had a really disastrous weekend at Knockhill, where he didn't score a single point all weekend for the 2 races, and then he had a pair of races at Silverstone where just wasn't on the same pace as everyone else, and this is someone who has come through the last couple of ranks of Caterhams in the last 2 consecutive years in Road Sport and 270Rs, having actually won the championship in each. So Lars is by no means a slow driver. He's a very quick driver, on the contrary. So to him be a little bit off form is a bit sure disappointing, confusing, especially for him, realising that he was at one point, winning a race in the opening weekend, and now he's dropped back and just had this really, really bad luck. He's just there in the red and white cage in the Motel sponsored car, just ahead of David Yates. Now, David Yates and Andy Lees have got some redemption for yesterday, because yes, they recovered well after their mishaps and their problems, but they want to try and get themselves a clean start and get themselves up amongst the front runners with a good, strong getaway from the grid. Andy Lees, I'm sure, all he wants to do is to make sure he gets through the first couple of laps without dropping it, because that's exactly what he did in the first race. Took a great pole position, led the first couple of laps, then just coming actually through 30s, caught a bump or a damp patch on the circuit, just lost the back end and went spinning off the road, but got back onto it again and had to pick his way through from towards the rear of the field up to what was eventually a fairly respectable 9th place, given where he was towards the rear of the pack. So the field makes its way onto the grid. It is Lewis Thompson in the sort of gold, sort of pearlescent type livery on that car. He's in car 79. Pete Walters in the all-black car with the white stripe down the middle. The red and yellow car with the fluorescent yellow wheels, that's James Wingfield. The green and red car is Mike Evans. Andrew Murgatroyd, the blue car with the yellow stripe, and Harry Cook, the black car with the white and red striping on it as well. And Lars Hoppen, watch for him from row 4, alongside David Yates and Andy Lees. The red lights will come on any moment now as the green flag flies at the back of the grid. Red lights on for the second Bilstein Caterham 7-3 tonight championship race. Is a decent start from the first 2 rows. Good start from Mike Evans as well. Oh, and James Wingfield got his avenue closed by Pete Walters. They get swamped by everyone else behind. Murgatroyd, Yates and Hoffman all pile past him. So Wingfield really had to back out of that. I think, to be fair to Pete, probably didn't see him charging through, but David Yates from nowhere comes steaming up the inside of Murgatroyd, has a big lock-up, and I said he needed a strong start. From 8th on the grid, he's up to 4th already, so a cracking getaway from David Yates. Always makes contact with Murgatroyd. He goes over the curb at Graham Hill Bend. Around the outside goes Yates to confirm that position. David Yates is not hanging around. He's already on the back of Pete Walters. As Thompson leads, Evans is up to 2nd, Walters 3rd, David Yates 4th, and to 5th, here comes Lars Hoffman. Either he's tuned in to me or he's found something over the weekend, because Hoffman's now up to 5th position. Murgatroyd's the one that's going slightly backwards. He started 5th, down to 6th. Cook is back in 7th place after he started where he started. Cross the line go the leaders. battle is on here at Brands Hatch at the start, and 3 abreast for second, third and fourth. Yates fires it up the inside of Mike Evans. That doesn't really work. Walters, meanwhile, has got past Evans again, back into second place. Evans tries to come back at him. Yates is not going to give up here, diving back up the inside, and he looks pretty fired up for this one, doesn't he? Just working away at the wheel there as they head their way down into the left-hand at Graham Hill Bend. A bit of hold up there for Harry Cook as Murgatroyd. Poor Andrew is caught out of the shuffle here, so he's lost 1, 2, 3 spots, and so his momentum is completely gone. He has to try and rebuild it up again in the next couple of laps, but try and make sure he doesn't lose too much time to the cars in front before he's realised it's too late and he's out of the tow with plenty of time to go. So I think it's a slightly reduced time for this race. It was normally half an hour, but because of the delays for the earlier restart that we had towards the beginning of the afternoon, it's a 25-minute race here for this second 310R encounter. Thompson in the lead, as you see him there turning into Paddock Hill Bend, 53.767, so he takes the first proper flying lap on racing conditions, not the lap off the grid. And now here comes Lars Hoffman, who in turn is trying to attack David Yates, who in turn is trying to get past Mike Evans. So essentially David Yates thinks, well, the best form of defending myself is to try and attack Mike Evans to get past him. And so the only way you can do that is to try and line him up for a move either exiting Graham Hill Bend here or possibly on the run down the pit straight towards Paddock Hill Bend once more. So 2.5 minutes still gone in this race. Thompson trying to pull away here, but Walters and co want to try and pin him down as quick as possible before he starts to run away too much. Remember, his win margin yesterday was almost 9.5 seconds, which is very un-Caterham-like given the close nature of the racing Caterham provides. He certainly wants to try and pull away as much as he can, Lewis, but everyone else wants to keep him in touch and make it a close race. Harry Cook sets a new fastest lap of the race now. It was James Wingfield, but it immediately goes to Harry, 53.614. There is just behind Andrew Murgatroyd. I think that's Jeff Price. It is in P10. Had a good run in 10th position. Ooh, and there goes. That was David Yates side by side with Lars Hoffman. And he has one out, so it's now Yates still in 4th position. Wingfield's been shuffled down to 6th now because he's behind both Yates and David and Lars Hoffman. Also in there too appears to be Harry Cook in 7th place. Andy Lees is not too far behind. He's in the top of the next pack, which includes Harry Landy, Andrew Murgatroyd, Jeff Price and Douglas Christie's in there too as well. So keep an eye out for that one. So heading out of Clearways through Clark Curve again. Now I'm going to keep an eye on the gap between Walters and leader Thompson. Let's see what it is. Well, it's new fastest lap of the race initially for... Well, it's new fastest lap now, 53.472 for David Yates. So he's the fastest man on track at this point in time. Unfortunately, my timing screen is frozen again, so I can only rely on what I've got on the left-hand side on the timing tower on screen. So 21 minutes to go. There goes Andy Lees with a move on Harry Landy, or at least to try and defend from Harry, who was looking down the outside and successfully does so. The DPR run machine, one of several in the Caterham paddock. Not just in 310s, but in the 270Rs and in the 7 Championship UK as well. We'll see them a little bit later on this afternoon. Getting frantic ahead of them, though, as that's Mike Evans with David Yates all over the back of him, as well as James Wingfield and co. Out through Clearways, and then back onto the pit straight once more. And let's look at lap times again. The gap is looking sort of stable between Thompson and Walters. Walters is pulling away. Last lap he was about a 10th slower, so that's one key thing as David Yates fires it up the inside of the Paddock Hill Bend and says, cheers for that, Mike, thank you very much. He's up into 3rd place down a possible podium, but Evans is not done here. He tries to go up the inside. Oh, 3 abreast into Druids. Careful, boys, this might be tricky. We had problems yesterday when we had 3 cars going 3 abreast. We had 2 cars ended up being popped into the air as a result of that, but they've all come through unscathed, and it's David Yates, ironically, the man that started all that, has dropped back down to 5th position. So that's quite ironic, isn't it? So it's now Mike Evans 3rd. It's now Hoffman 4th, Yates 5th, Wingfield 6th, and Harry Cook down. He's still in 7th position. So the pack now going off for 3rd. Here comes Hoffman, going for 3rd on the inside of Mike Evans. Just gives him enough room, but the outside lines favour. The better momentum keeps him in front. And he's just going to hold on for the time being. So down the pit straight they go, all in one big tow together. There they go. Evans, Hoffman, Yates and Wingfield all together. Look at them 2 by 2 into Paddock Hill Bend, side by side for 3rd. There goes Evans. Here comes David Yates again. Remember me, Lars. Back up the inside he goes. Can't get it done. All 2 was on the gravel for Mike Evans. That lost him momentum. Up the inside goes Lars Hoffman. There's the top 2 for 3rd place. It's anyone's guess. Hoffman back up the inside line. There goes Harry Cook around the outside of James Wingfield. He's getting his elbow stuck in as well. He's now up to 6th position, so that's now past James Wingfield into his expense. Oh, Lars Hoffman got bulked behind Mike Evans. Passed up the inside goes David Yates. Can hardly breathe for a second here. There's so much action going on in this race behind the top 2. And I think Walters also, to add on top of that, he's starting to catch Lewis Thompson. So we could get a battle for the lead and this titanic scrap for 3rd place. And there's still 18 3/4 minutes to go. So they've got plenty of time to sort themselves out. But the top 2 are in a class of their own right at this moment in time. Here they come. It should be a quintet, but it's 4 of them all together now back towards Paddock Hill Bend. All staying line astern. Yates took to the inside line to defend from Lars Hoffman. And again, he lost a bit of bodywork is Mike Evans for the 2nd lap in succession. He runs 2 wheels through the gravel. Everyone else is piling on top of him. Look at Harry Cook round the outside of everyone. He's gone past Evans, past Hoffman on the outside lane. He's done 2 for the price of 1. Oh, contact between Hoffman and Evans. They just about get away with it. But Harry Cook, ever the opportunist, says, scruff amongst yourselves, boys. I'm off. See you later. And he's going with David Yates. Incredible stuff. There goes the top 2. Thompson and Walters. For 3rd, take your pick. It changes every corner. So David Yates then currently in 3rd place. It's Cookie now in 4th. Hoffman 5th. Mike Evans started the last lap in 3rd. He's down to 6th. And he might be 7th by the end of it because James Wingfield's in the mix as well. He might get him in the slipstream. Here comes Cook to the outside of Yates. Mike Evans goes on the offensive of Hoffman. So it's 2 by 2 for 3rd and 5th. Down the outside looks Cook. Yates breaks that bit later. They're side by side into the corner. Lock up for Evans and he runs a little wide. They're still side by side for 3rd. Wide over the curb goes Cook, but Yates is still holding on for the time being. Under brakes into the hairpin at Druids. Brilliant races from Caterham's. Typical top-line Caterham racing for these guys. Remember, some of these drivers will have raced all the way through from the academy, all the way through to 310s. Some of them stay in the 310s for several seasons. They'll know these cars like the back of their own hand. Here's the 2nd group. It's headed by Andy Lees with Andrew Murgatroyd, Harry Landy. Jeff Price is having a great run in 11th place. And then we've got Douglas Christie in there too. So this is now 8th down to 12th in this 2nd group. Here they come. Oh, and Jeff Price, I spoke too soon. Beautiful 360 though, keeps it going again. And away goes Jeff Price. He would have given the fright of his life, but he's managed to get going again, relatively unscathed. New fastest lap of the race from Lewis Thompson, but Pete Walters is on his pace. Side by side for 3rd again. Down the outside, looks Harry Cook, but he still can't get himself around David Yates. And now they turn back in through Paddock Hill Bend again. Side by side between Hoffman and Wingfield this time. So this is now the scrap over 6th and 7th place. And Hoffman gets shuffled back to 7th because there goes Wingfield. So this order constantly changing. But watch for the 3 cars behind them, which is Lees, Murgatroyd and Landy. If these 5 cars keep on scrapping as much, watch for these 3 to keep on catching them. It could be a mega 8-car pack for the final podium place as Murgatroyd goes on the offensive. Look at them. They glide their way through Surtees, up through McLaren and under brakes in towards Clearways. Still having 1 or 2 issues with my timing screen to give you some latest times. It's stuck on the end of the 1st lap, so again I can only go by what I've got. So in terms of lap times, in terms of gaps, I'm afraid all I can give you is just what I can see visibly rather than my lap times to see if I can work it out, so apologies for that. But the battle of the 3rd continues. I think the wind is getting to the camera as well because it's incredibly strong here. Very blustery day here at Brands Hatch. Getting blustery at the battle of the 3rd here, because it's side by side and David Yates gives him a little elbow. Get out of it, Harry. I'll hold on to 3rd place if you don't mind. And now it brings Mike Evans into play here. Lock up from Yates into Graham Hill Bend. That will compromise his run off the corner. And Harry Cook senses that. He's going to go for it here. Yates doesn't go to the inside lane to defend. And into Surtees they go. It's very close. And David Yates had to really hold on there and just hope that Harry Cook knew what he was doing. And thankfully he did. James Wingfield now under threat from Lars Hoffman again in the 70 car, the Motor sponsored machine, the German who was Road Sport champion in 2019. He was 270R champion in 2020. He's going to have a tough time winning the 310R championship this year, but he might come back for more next year. Let's go for a 2nd crack at it. Here comes Murgatroyd on the outside of Lees. This is for 8th, 7th position. And under brakes, they turn in through Paddock. Can he get the slingshot on the exit? He'll certainly have a go. Which way is he going to look this time? You certainly have to go to the outside at this point in time. And there's Mike Evans round the outside of David Yates. Where did that come from? Mike Evans pops up into 4th place at the expense of David Yates. David Yates must have thought of thinking, how has that happened? But he's going to try and get him back on the exit here. He'll try and get into the slipstream. Down towards the left-hander at Surtees. All 5 in a line together. Look at that. As close as you like. Oh, a little wide there for Evans over the curb. Feeling the pressure. And now here comes Wingfield up the inside. David Yates thinks, oh, not another one. Another one trying to get past me. Just let me have my own race. Stop overtaking me. Now the traction on the exit will help for David Yates, but then Wingfield will have the toe. He's boxed in here, he's behind Evans, he's got David Yates to his left, but he manages to find a gap between the two of them. Here comes Yates back up the inside again. But still, no move through. And look at Hoffman trying to get in the mix as well. These five are brilliant. The top two are, as they are at the front, very evenly matched. But these five are having a riot of a time in third place. This is over the final podium place. They should all get a trophy at this rate, given just how hard they've been fighting. And we've still got 13 and 3/4 minutes left to go in this reduced 25-minute race. So we still haven't hit the halfway point yet, which is incredible. I'm probably betting at this point in time how hard these guys are fighting. They'll be happy, but also pretty exhausted at the end of all this battling, because it does take out of you. These are pretty physical cars to drive at times, these Caterhams, particularly when you're racing them on the limit. They do take quite a loss in terms of holding them to be smooth, because they can move around quite a bit. Lewis Thompson sets another fastest lap of the race, extends his lead by about roughly half a tenth or so. Back comes this 5-car scrap for third, spreading out a little bit here, down towards paddock. But still Cook from Evans, from Wingfield, from Yates, from Hoffman. That's third down to 7th. There's Lewis Thompson, by the way. Now the gap is, it looks pretty static between these two. Again, now our timing screen's popped back into life now, so the gap is, last time by, it was 9/10 of a second, or just under that. So it was a slightly faster lap for Lewis Thompson, who fast lap of the race, but they're both lapping as quick as each other, which means as though that it seems to me that not only are the class of the field, but if Pete Walters keeps on his progress, there's every chance he could start to close in and even try and make a move on Lewis Thompson and deny him his 6th win in a row, because of course that it makes him the most successful driver in the pack already, having won 5 races from the races he's competed for every single race he's run so far. 100% win record for him from 2021 in terms of every race that he started he's won. As for that battle for third down to 7th, that's calmed down a bit now, so we can carry on having a look at our leaders for the time being. And Walters last time by was about 1/4 of a second quicker, so the gap is down to 0.6 of a second. Game on for the race lead, because Pete Walters will start to keep on closing in. Look at the way he tries to just rotate the car on the edge of the circuit, try and get a little bit of extra rotation to help the car turn in, to give it a bit more momentum through Graham Hill Bend. And up through Surtees again. I love the way these cars just, the amount of pace they carry through, where they just swing and glide their way over the tarmac through Surtees, up through McLaren, up through Clearways, and then back onto the power again through Clark Curve, and then hugging the inside line across the pit straight. There's the top two. How about our scrap for third? How's that looking as we wait for them to come to the shot? There it is. Now Harry Cook's pulled away, but Mike Evans hasn't done so for James Wingfield. Here comes James. Down the outside he goes, side by side for 4th, into Paddock Hill Bend. Mike Evans will have the inside line and therefore has the track position. But the racing line gives Wingfield the chance to swing back to the inside and have a go this time. So he pulls level. They're going to be parallel on under brakes down towards the braking zone for Druids. Turning in, and that is 1 position gain for Wingfield. And Yates was trying to follow him through late on in that corner, but couldn't quite just poke his way through. So he's going to have a try next time. He keeps close to these next few corners. Just disappearing down the back straight. Rest of the top 10. Well, David Yates, Lars Hoffman's dropped back in 7th place. He's just there watching on the fringes of this battle as David Yates again. He thought about it. He was thinking about a move, and he's still thinking about it, getting over the curbs on the inside. So he's going to try and press on as hard as he can, keeping the toe. But he has to bear in mind that Mike Evans has the toe as well. So whatever David Yates is trying to do, Mike is trying to do it back to James here. 10 minutes 20 seconds to go in this second Caterham 310R race. Turn in through the hairpin at Druids again. Lead gap is now, it's toing and froing at the front. It's about 8.5 tenths between Thompson and Walters, so no real change between them. As we now watch our battle of the third, make its battle of 4th going up towards Surtees now. Oh, and Harry Cook, look at the way he threw the car into the corner through Surtees. Wingfield's up over the curb as well, so you can tell he's pushing. They're all right at the limit here. That's the best bit about Caterham racing. There's never a dull Caterham race, because there's always a battle like this going on. It's even when they get to a bit of a stalemate, the fact they're all towed together and trying to make a move, it's always quite tense when you watch a Caterham race, because you always sense that something's about to kick off at any moment. Any time someone can make a dive up the inside or make a mistake, and just one little slip and it can bring the whole chasing pack behind. If there's a big group of cars, just bring them back into contention, and then you've got a fight on your hands. These Caterhams really are like nothing else that anyone will ever drive and ever race. And They really are a unique experience, and they do put on some fabulous racing. So still the battle of a fourth as it is. Now, Wingfield's pulled away from Evans, who now is under big pressure from the very feisty David Yates, who will find any opportunity he can, is sniffing around for a move in the top 5 here. Just really keeps on applying that pressure. Here's the leaders. Look at their lap times, cross the lap time this time by, and it's another 2/10 gain for Thompson. The gap is now just over a second. So at this point in time, Thompson's looking comfortable enough, but not totally comfortable, because he knows that Walters isn't too far away. Thompson turns in. Walters keeps up the pursuit in car 88, former Caterham champion himself. So very experienced, but certainly the young gun Lewis is getting involved. Now then, I see spots of rain on my window, so it's starting to rain once again. Now this might well bring things different, be a different factor into play here. And of course, in these cars, the tyres that they use are essentially all-weather tyres. They do fit all weather conditions. It's not like the 7 Championship UK cars that have a dedicated Avon slick and wet tyre. They do run an all-weather tyre that can handle both the dry and any form of rain around the circuit. It is starting to rain again. I was expecting another cloudburst at some point this afternoon. So it's a ride pretty much right on time. It was saying around about 4 o'clock. So just as it was predicted, this should make things a little bit interesting. It's drizzling, but maybe not enough to have that much of a big impact, as Evans has a look back up the outside to try and repass Wingfield for position. They turn back in through Paddock Hill Bend. This is over 4th place. Best of the rest off the podium, and Evans looks one way then the other, but Wingfield firmly shuts the door. Just thinks, what are you doing, Mike? Go around the long way. So Mike says, okay then, if you're going to make it that tough, I'll try the long way round. And he did have a go at Druids, but didn't quite work out for him that way. Still, there's more and more spots of rain forming on my commentary box window here, so it is starting to drizzle a bit. As the leaders then come back through to complete another lap. There's Harry Cook still holding on, and Evans very sideways as he pushes on to try and repass Wingfield. There's David Yates. He's fallen back in a big sideways moment for David Yates. It's never unspectacular when you watch David Yates. Either he's trying to make a move up the inside of somebody or having a big tail slide. He's certainly an entertaining driver to watch, is David. I know he's a popular figure in the paddock as well, so that's probably one of the reasons why he's that entertaining on the track, and I'm sure in the paddock as well. There's David. I suspect whatever's happening, he's having fun out there. So 6th place at the moment for David. A better starting position than he had yesterday, because he had that issue when he had the spin in the beginning of the race, and then he had to fight his way back up to what was eventually 8th place. So running a little better than he was yesterday. Lars Hoffman's also back in 7th, and again just looked strong at the beginning of the race, and then just faded towards in the second half. Really, I'm not sure the reason why. Even he will want some answers as to why there's a drop off in pace. It's not really at the same pace he was in the last 2 seasons. Again, he has a win to his name this year, but and David Yates fronts wide. And that was always easy picking for Lars Hoffman. Then again, Yates comes back at him. Look at the slingshot he got from the corner. He took the wide line, which is technically the wet line, went all the way around the outside and went, I'll have that back if you don't mind. That was brilliant stuff from David Yates. Was not going to let that go for a second. He ran wide. Everyone thought, oops, he's going off the road. Put his foot back down, and Lars Hoffman looked to the left-hand side and went, hold on a minute, that shouldn't work. But it did, and so David Yates is back into 6th position now. In front of a rather bemused Lars Hoffman, thinking, how on earth did that happen? So, 5.5 minutes to go. No change in the fact the lead gap has been consistently going back out again. It's now 1.7 seconds between Thompson and Walters. So Cook holds on to 3rd, Wingfield 4th, Evans 5th, then I'll scrap for 6th between David Yates and Lars Hoffman. 7th place at the moment is... So sorry, 8th place is Andy Lees. Forgive me. 9th place is Andrew Murgatroyd. 10th is Harry Landy. Then Christie, Price, Curtis, Welch and Metcalf round out the 15 runners. So all 15 that started are still going. There's spots of rain on our camera on top of the hospitality building here where we have our setup, which is our main camera looking over the start and finish straight. So it is starting to, it's carrying on raining. In fact, I think it's getting a little more intense now here at Brands Hatch. But incredibly, the temperature is still 17 degrees. So even though it is raining, any moisture that's on the circuit, if it continues to be this warm and blustery, it will still dry off pretty quickly. And so this might make the next race coming up, the 3rd and final race of the weekend for the Avon Tyres National Formula Ford Championship, pretty interesting as well this afternoon. Less than 4.5 minutes to go. Lars Hoffman's pushing on to try and get past David Yates again. There is Andy Lees, who had some adventures yesterday. Started on the pole position. And think he was helped in part, not just by his pace, but also by some of the slightly jumbled up grid in the weather conditions. Had that spin where he dropped it on the exit of Surtees to fight back to 9th place, so he had some work to do. There is Andrew Murgatroyd with Harry Landy in hot pursuit. This is for 9th and 10th, the last 2 cars in the top 10. I can see the leaders are coming out of Graham Hill Bend, so they carry on. Cook still 3rd, Wingfield 4th. That battle's still going on as Murgatroyd slides and slithers wide, and through goes Landy. Christie will get involved as well. Doug Christie in the black and gold car just at the back of this 3-car train. But Landy gets through. I suspect maybe was that possibly a bit of moisture or something down there with Murgatroyd just getting a bit too hot into Druids and losing the back end. Thankfully he caught it well, but he has lost a position as a result of that. He's now down to 10th, and he moves up another spot. So out through Clearways, through Clark Curve. 3¼ minutes left in this second to last Caterham race of the weekend. We've still got one more for the Caterham 7 Championship UK. And just like that, with the ever-changing weather, I think it's still spitting with rain, but the sun's also shining down here at Brands Hatch. Now then, I think that was Stephen Metcalf, I think, that has just, it's either Metcalf or Curtis that Lewis Thompson just put a lap on. Pete Walters is still in 2nd place. Gappy's come down again slightly to 1.4 seconds, but the last couple of laps it's gone back out again, so I suspect that the traffic had something to do with that. And there goes Pete Walters continuing the pursuit. He's running out of time here. He either needs a mistake or just catching up to some traffic to allow Pete Walters back into contention here. But 2nd place will still be quite strong for him. It keeps up his 100% record of continuously finishing on the podium and not finishing any lower than 2nd, and so that's looking pretty strong in its own right. And so what's interesting as well is that Lewis Thompson, because you drop your worst 3 results and you count your best 12, if Lewis Thompson goes ahead and wins every single race in the season, including the ones he's won already, if he wins here this 2nd race and also the rest of them coming up this year at Croft, Snetterton and Cadwell Park, his worst results will be literally the 3 races he didn't compete in, which is Dartmoor Park, which means not only will he have a 100% winning record if he performs that, but he won't have anything to drop because he'll have no points, and his best results will all be victories. So that may well come back to be a blessing for him later on. Whilst Pete Walters, of course, has to drop at the moment a couple of 2nd places. He will probably drop at least. We'll have to drop 3 of them because he's got 3 scores and 23 points, where there's some where he's got 23 plus the fastest lap of the race, which means gives him an extra bonus point for 4th. At the moment, it's going to be a maximum score of 26 for Lewis Thompson, 25 plus that bonus point for the fastest lap. There goes Thompson, here goes Walters. Gap is stabilised at 1.4 seconds, so looks as though I think in these final few moments of the race, with the last lap imminent, I think we're probably going to hold on to this top 2. Lewis Thompson, who pretty much is just driving as if he's been doing it absolutely for years, and so he's only been, it's kind of his 2nd or 3rd year of Caterham racing, so getting to grips with the Caterhams is in pretty rapid fashion, and now he's got to the point where he is one of the most formidable drivers in the pack. Across the line he goes with 40 seconds left to go, so which means we are on to the last lap. And Pete Walters will need some kind of a miracle, I think. He's dropped another half a tenth on that last lap, so the gap is still just under 1.5 seconds, there or thereabouts. But Pete Walters has got this one in tow at the moment in 2nd place. And they're miles ahead of the next group of cars. Harry Cook in 3rd place. He's now got a 3-second advantage over James Wingfield. Mike Evans is holding on to 5th, and it's then Yates, Hoffman, Lees, Landy and Murgatroyd in the top 10. But out through Surtees in the sunshine, it's going to be Lewis Thompson who will carry on, and Pete Walters will keep on pushing right to the very end up to the flag. But at the moment it's going to be a good effort, but not good enough to stop him, because even though he missed a round at Donington on those drop score rounds, it means at the moment he will keep up a 100% winning record. It is 6 wins from 6 starts once again, and a 2nd race victory of the weekend for Lewis Thompson in the Bill Stein Caterham 7-3-10R Championship. A brilliant drive once again from pole position. Pete Walters pushes him all the way and finishes 1.1 seconds at the end. It's 2nd place, 3rd for Harry Cook, 4th for James Wingfield, 5th for Mike Evans, 6th for David Yates, 7th for Hoffman. A battle between Lees and 8th, and it's 9th and 10th across the line in quick succession for Murgatroyd and Landy. Murgatroyd beating Landy to the flag, and Landy gets the final top 10 spot with Douglas Christie 11th, Jeff Price 12th. Gary Curtis 13th, and then it's Chris Welch in 14th place with Stephen Metcalf, the final finisher out of 15. So all 15 started and all 15 made it home again, which is great to see. So, great job for Lewis Thompson. 6 wins out of 6 starts for him, 100% win record. That will do nicely for him, particularly when he's got nothing to drop so far in terms of worst results. In fact, he'll have nothing to drop because his worst results have been counted anyway after missing Donington Park. So, excellent job from all involved by him. And so they will be heading back around into pit lane. And let's confirm the provisional result. It is Lewis Thompson who wins then by 1.1 seconds from Pete Walters in 2nd place. Harry Cook finishes 3rd. James Wingfield 4th. And Mike Evans rounds out the top 5 from David Yates in 6th. Lars Alexander Hoffman in 7th place. Then Andy Lees, Andrew Murgatroyd and Harry Landy round out the top 10. Then it's Douglas Christie 11th. Jeff Price 12th. Gary Curtis 13th. Then Chris Welch and Stephen Metcalf finish off the 15 finishers of the race. As I mentioned, all 15 started. All 15 made it home.